How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the Nightmare Cabin. I've got an album review for you, and today we're talking about the new album from Nocturnus AD. This is Unicursal on Profound Law Records. Where do we start with this? Right, for the uninitiated, I've got a bit of background for you. So, Nocturnus AD is the brainchild of Mike Browning. Now, Mike Browning was the original drummer and vocalist for Morbid Angel, until he fell out with Trey. Trey then recruited David Vincent on bass and vocals, and then Pete Sandoval on drums. Went on to record Altars of Madness, which is obviously one of the greatest debut albums ever. And but the original version of that album was reissued later on as Abominations of Desolation. So early sort of the songs were tweaked for Altars of Madness, so it's the first album, so to speak, but the first true debut album is Altars of Madness. But yeah, Abominations of Desolation was reissued just before Covenant come out, I think, and you can hear those songs in their original form. And obviously before that, you've got demos and so on and so forth. So off the back of that, Mike then went on to do Nocturnus. So their debut album, The Key. Most notable, there was still like an occult theme and a horror theme in their lyrics, but there was also a big science fiction theme in there as well. And the first death metal band to have a keyboard player. So the first album, The Key, is a phenomenal album and a real, you can visualize a space battle going on, and this chunk of crap speeding through space, going through portals and all sorts of goodness. The second album, they actually got a vocalist, and Mike stayed on drums, but they got an actual vocalist in because the record label didn't like the aesthetic of the drum and vocals. And there was a bit of a power play going on in the band, but they put out a pretty decent second album called Thresholds. And you see Mike in the front and centre there. But then he split with the band, and I think there was a bit of a thingy with the name. The band did carry on. Mike then joined Acheron for a couple of albums, and then did another band called After Death. And then after seeing, bands like Venom Inc. and two different Queensryches, and he felt that he could start Nocturnus again in the way he visualised it, and did Nocturnus AD. So after a few years of gigging, in 2019 put out the album Paradox. You see the same figurehead there on the front cover of the album. So this is Dr. Megas. If I pronounce that right, is it Dr. Megas or Dr. Negus? I'm going to have to quickly look that up. Something's telling me I got that wrong. Magus. That's it. I pronounced it wrong. Dr. Megas. Now, a lot of people think this is a concept album. They're half right. The story of Dr. Megas is actually the last 4 tracks of this album. And it's the same thing with Paradox. It's the story continues on the last 4 tracks of Paradox. So the first, see the getting all blurry there. So the first half of the album, they can explore whatever subject they want. And generally speaking, you're looking at Lovecraftian horror, cosmic horror, occult themes, whatnot. And then you've got the story of Dr. Magus on the second half of the album, and that continues on this one. And there's some pretty cool artwork in this as well, with the all the band members look like H.P. Lovecraft characters, which I think is quite funny. If you see, there's a music video as well where the band are all, it's all superimposed on them, but it looks pretty cool. So yeah, Unicursal kind of carries on where Paradox left off, but the sound is expanded in a big way, and it's about 10 minutes longer than the previous album as well. And I think this is a blessing and a curse, and it's what people are going to appreciate. Zoom in, get this camera to focus. 1 second, fellas. And it's also going to be what people are going to detract from the album as well. But I'm liking it. It's produced by Jared Pritchard as well. I hope I pronounced his name right. Who's got a list as long as your arm of great albums that he's produced. He's also was the guitarist in Eulogy, classic death metal band. He joined Brutality in I think Brutality is still going, and Pulchra Mortar as well. A death doom project worth checking out. I'm just going to hold that up there so hopefully this camera can focus. It's distracting me now. So it picks up with a nice intro track and then goes into the opening track, which is, let me back up. The Ascension Throne of Osiris, I think that is. And it's what you're expecting so far. So I've told you the background of the band. I've not really told you. So yeah, musically they are a death metal band with a keyboard player, but they're very technical and a bit crazy and a bit out there and chaotic. But nice and melodic when need be as well, with a touch of prog here and there as well, for good measure. When I say science fiction based death metal, you kind of get the idea. Everything you want is in place, really. It's familiar territory. What's most notable as well, like I said previously, that this album overall is about 10 minutes longer than the previous album. It's the track Mesolithic, which is really when it stands out. Like, yeah, something they're really going for something adventurous on this album. It starts off with like a tribal drum pattern which builds up and builds up. Then it explodes into life as crazy and chaotic as we know them and love them for. But then it goes nice and quiet and goes into like nice little proggy section in it as well. But then it sort of builds up into this big climax. And yeah, you're looking at just under 9 minutes for that track. Then you got Organism 46B, which has a awesome shredding solo on it, which is reminiscent of something Eddie Van Halen would have done. It's like, crazy. And then we go into the second half of the album, which starts off with Mission Malkuth, I think it is. This is when the story kicks off, and the album just goes off in all sorts of directions. It's a really good soundtrack to the story, and in the story, the main character is travelling through different portals, collecting different artifacts to make up a symbol, which opens up another portal. The story's all about time travelling and opening portals and whatnot. Where I think it's the Hod the Stellar Light as well has got a really good bit with where the keyboards go off on a solo. There's keyboard solos on this as well, but there's more in it as well where there's nice quieter moments where it kind of goes all musically and then musical. You've got these nice ambient passages and then it goes back into the wild ride. And it has a 4-minute outro as well. I'll get to that first actually. Netzach, the Fire of Victory, is a nice slow doomy number to close the album. And then the sort of epilogue is the outro, where it's like like this nice tribal drum beat, and then I think they use one of those, those things where it's just looks like an aerial, and then they go woo, woo, and they move their hand near it, and it makes like that synthesized sound. They're mucking about with that on the last track, and it's kind of psychedelic and cool. I think overall, though, I mean, from the people criticising it, has said that it's a bit too long. Could have a bit of fat trimmed off it. I think I'm liking the way the sound is expanding now. I'm liking that Mike's got control of the sound again, of the whole concept of Nocturnus. And I think I'm fine with the length, basically. It doesn't really bother me. It's not as if the songs are too long. There's probably 1 or 2 but you know, it's been 5 years since the last album. It's just under an hour long, but the last album's just over 50 minutes. It doesn't really bother me. Mike's vocals seem to be getting a bit of criticism as well. He's not got the harshness that his vocals used to have. That is notable. But Mike still always pronounced the words, and he always kind of, as much as even when he was screaming at his harshest, he still had his own unique voice. He still sounded like Mike, and he kind of did sort of speak the narrative. So the harshness and the sort of, you know, is taking a back step. But it still sounds like Mike. It's still him. He's still doing what he's doing, and he's still drumming while singing, and he's still got that trappy sort of bark about him. So as vocalists get older, their voice, you know, loses its harshness in this style of metal, and I don't really care. But then that kind of is the double-edged sword with this album, is that I'm really enjoying this album, but I don't think this is going to be an album that's going to convert new fans. If this is for the fully fledged and the people that are already along for the ride, this is like watching a film that's like three or four films into a franchise, or this is like picking up on season 4 of a series. It's really good. I do really enjoy it, and if you are a fan of Nocturnus AD, this is a great addition to the catalogue. Or if you're a fan of Nocturnus, this is a great addition to the catalogue, and by all means, carry on. If you're new to the band, though, no, this is the worst place to start. And I think, and that kind of ties in with the vocals. It's it's probably not going to win a lot of new people over, but I think if you're a fan of Mike Browning, you know what he's about. You know what you've been getting. The vocals isn't really that big an issue. My favourite song is still Precision of the Equinoxes on Paradox. I love that on the keyboards. That's the background of the main song. But I don't know. I say this a lot, but this is rewarding repeated listens, and the more details in the songs come out on subsequent listens, and I think it's going to be a slow burner, but I think it's going to be a grower throughout the year. I think this is going to be an album people are going to keep coming back to, and keep. Oh yeah, I think it's going to grow on people as the year goes on, and I think it's going to be an album that people are going to keep revisiting, and I think this is going to score higher with people as the year goes on as it is initially now. I think this is going to warm on people. It's certainly warming on me. So yeah, great album. I love the concepts. One thing as well, back in my when I used to write for magazines and whatnot, I wrote for Metal Legion, and I did a really good, if I say so myself, interview with Mike when the last album came out, and I actually had to do the interview twice. So I'm going to be, I highly recommend checking that out. Check out Metal Legion. This will still be available. It's available digitally as well. But yeah, like I say, really good album, but probably not the best to start with. If you're curious, definitely go back and get the key. You don't really need Thresholds straight away. Maybe get that later. But yeah, definitely start off with the key. Then get Paradox. Then get Unicursal. And then get Thresholds last. And if you're really curious, if you're really enjoying what Mike's doing, I highly recommend, if you can track it down, After Death. This was a project he did in between Nocturnus AD and Acheron. So, and a lot of the themes that he's exploring here a lot of the members of this are in Nocturnus AD as well. So it kind of is the bridge between them all. So hopefully that'll keep you busy for now. And good album overall, though. I'm enjoying it. Thanks for watching as always, folks. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.